Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in for an episode of Nasdaq Spotlight. I'm your host, Emily Drury, and I'm here today with Lowell Putnam, Head of Partnerships at Plaid. Thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
So for everyone who's watching who might not be familiar with Plaid yet, can you give us a rundown of what it is?
Sure. So Plaid is a financial data network. We allow consumers to link their financial accounts, their bank accounts, investment accounts, loans to their favorite apps and other financial institutions, and we give developers tools to build those applications. So you've probably seen us places like Venmo, Betterment, Wealthfront, SoFi. Under the hood, we're connecting those apps to financial institutions to access consumer data.
And how long has Plaid been around?
Plaid's been around for about 7 years now.
Okay.
And 1 in 4 Americans, believe it or not, has actually attached a financial account to an app using Plaid.
Whether they know it or not.
Well, hopefully they know it because we're a consumer consent-driven company. So anytime you see a place to log in with your username and password to access your bank account, we're there under the hood, making sure that that data can go with your permission to that app.
Fantastic.
So about 80% of the largest fintech apps are using us today.
So you're here in New York speaking at the TAP Summit this week. Can you give us an idea of what you're talking about?
So we're going to be talking about the future of fintech, what we call the future of money. It's more than just financial services. It's the way that people interact with their money day to day and then also access new types of services, how they plan for retirement, how they pay for things differently than they have in the past, really exploring a lot of things that are changing in the fintech ecosystem.
And you're kind of a part of all of those changes when you deal with partnerships. What do you look for?
So Plaid's partners are access to new markets. Plaid's an infrastructure company. We're the picks and the shovels, we're the plumbing under the hood, and so we need partners to help us reach our core markets. So we use partnerships to make our way into the payment space, into the community banking space, into lending, wealth management. Partners are the software platforms that allow us to access end consumers that way.
So speaking of partners, it was recently announced that MasterCard and Visa were participants in your Series C funding. Tell me what that means for the company moving forward.
It's a huge strategic investment for Plaid, obviously, to get not just one, but both of the major networks of credit cards to invest in the company at the same time. So when you look back at the past 40, 50 years of financial technology, the biggest innovators have actually been the payment networks. So Visa and MasterCard really are the largest of the last generation of big fintech innovation. And when we think about the future of money, we think that Plaid has a really critical part to play in that, along with the incumbents like Visa and MasterCard.
So how will that appear to consumers? Will they visibly see what happens with this partnership moving forward, or is?
Well, it's early to say,
Okay.
right? I think that we're all exploring new ways to interact with our money, either to pay for things, for goods and services, or to access new types of services like bank accounts or retirement planning or loans. So how we're going to be working with Visa and MasterCard is still TBD, but we want to stay close to the people that are having the biggest impact on financial services today, and it doesn't get a whole lot bigger than Visa and MasterCard.
Absolutely, that's huge for you guys. What has been the most exciting moment for you so far being a part of Plaid?
I think the most exciting part about being in this space is how horizontal Plaid is becoming. We aren't just an account aggregation company. We don't just give you a pie chart to see all your stuff in one place anymore. All of a sudden, connected accounts are touching the way you pay your rent, the way you pay your utilities, the way you plan for retirement. There are a number of different use cases that we didn't even see coming when we started the company. And now today, we're showing up lots of new places. Our customers are inventing new use cases for us faster than we can come up with products to help them, and that's really, really exciting.
So I love the idea of working on things now that you couldn't have imagined back when you started the company, and of course, what can you not imagine in the future that you think might be kind of like lurking in the distance?
Well, I guess when I think about being an under the hood or a network of infrastructure, it means that we need to be in more places at the same time. I could see us in both the most traditional parts of the financial ecosystem, such as the largest banks, and then also working with challenger banks and the newest entrants all at the same time and connecting those two players. I think what's most exciting looking forward is to take the next great idea that hasn't even started yet and connect it back to the bank account that you've had since you were 11 or 12 years old. So it's the old and the new coming together that keeps us really excited.
And one last question about being the head of partnerships. What is something that when you're eyeing a new partnership that you kind of know that it's going to be good for both you and Plaid and the customers? Like, is there like a moment that you sense like this is a good pairing?
It's a really good question. I think, honestly, the more time I spend in the role, the more I realize it's personality driven. A product like ours takes work to get integrated, it takes work to get adopted, and so we have to find excitement in the partner. We have to see someone who's excited about the potential of adding an entirely new layer of infrastructure into an already complicated financial services system. And when there's excitement for that new infrastructure level, then we know that we can have something that really works.
Absolutely. So here at Nasdaq, we're focused on tech and we're focused on the idea of rewriting tomorrow. So how is Plaid rewriting tomorrow?
Plaid is changing the way that you interact with your money. It amazes me that that 1 in 4 Americans have already used us. As we expand into Canada, into the UK, into Europe, and even beyond, I think that number is going to get larger and larger. And I think our CEO says this too, that the biggest customer that we have hasn't even started yet. The biggest customer is still in its infancy, which means that we're going to be surprised by this biggest impact that we have on the fintech ecosystem.
Well, I'm excited to see it all happen. Thank you so much for joining me today.
No, thanks for having me.